Alright guys, so welcome to the channel Vedic Discoveries. So in today's video, we are going to be trying to date the Mahabharata. Yes, so this, if you all must be familiar with the Mahabharata, it is one of the epics of India, of ancient India to be precise. And of course, many of us consider it as history. Of course, it is history because there are just irrefutable evidences for this event. Anyways, let's not indulge into that. We're not here for that. So in today's episode or in today's video, we're going to be dating the Mahabharata. So basically, disclaimer before the video proceeds is that I am not claiming that my date is accurate, or I'll even be happy if it's halfly accurate, to be frank. But of course, I'm also learning. So after you watch this video, if you have any thoughts, if you have any valuable inputs, you can please feel free to write it down in the comment section below. And of course, if you think that somewhere I have gone wrong with something, of course you can address those points as well. I am fully open to feedback, and I am not claiming that this is full final, accurate. There cannot be any other dates. I'm not saying like that. Any which ways, this is gonna be a very interesting video, so let's have fun along the way. All right. So before talking about anything, before jumping to conclusions, of course we need evidences. Now, how do these evidences work? We have three types of evidences that we can use, right? So when we are considering Hindu scriptures, basically the Vedic scriptures, whatever you can want to call that. So the first evidence is the astronomical evidence. The second evidence is the historical evidence, and the third evidence is the archaeological evidence. Let's learn a little more about this. So first, let's start with what is astronomical evidence. So if you have read the Vedic scriptures or any other scriptures like the Purans and the Vedas and anything, Mahabharata, Ramayana, you will be no stranger to the fact that the Hindu scriptures are filled to the brim with with information about the constellations during particular events. So basically they'll say that this planet was here, the locations of the planetary bodies or the location of the celestial bodies is always given, like during Shri Ram's birth, for example, this was here and so on. So of course that is always there. So these all references, these all planetary positions, the positions of the celestial bodies can be put into the planetarium software, right? And then we can get the dates for those events. So that is one type of evidence that we can use to date an event concerning with the Hindu scriptures. And then secondly, of course, there is historical evidence. So I'm sorry, these basically, there are books, there are accounts written by people of that time period which can be used to trace back to when particular events happen, if they happened at all, right? So of course in history, like, people have written books, visitors to India have written books, for example the Greeks, then the Romans, then the Chinese visitors, and so on. And finally, we do have the archaeological evidence. Now, archaeological evidence is the physical evidence that we get after digging up or excavating sites, and then we get like some things, for example, tools, weapons, and whatever. And then we can use various methods like carbon dating or any other methods to date these, and then we can try to fit them into particular era, which can also help to find out which events happened when. So these are the three types of evidences. So in today's video, my evidence is only going to be based on historical and archaeological. I'm not going to be, my date is not based on astronomical evidence, because many scholars have done astronomical, based on astronomical evidence, have given dates. For example, if you say that Mahabharata occurred around 3000 BC, if you say that it occurred further back around 5000 to 6000 BC. So yeah, there are many dates based on astronomical evidence, but mine is going to be solely on historical and archaeological evidence. Alright, let's move ahead. So first of all, when we talk about history, of course, we need to talk about the empires of ancient India. So, what we are going to be doing in this video, how are we going to finding the date of the Mahabharata? We're going to be doing that by going through by scanning through various empires, ancient lineages, and then tracking or tracing back through time to the point where we reach Mahabharata. Okay, this is a very unique method because I think in many of the books, such as the Puranas, so much information is given about the empires and everything. It is there, but we don't actually, we don't just look, we just read it, but we don't analyze it, we don't evaluate it, because this it's very easy if you do that. I mean, we have dates for when a few kings have, and we have for how long they ruled according to the Puranas. So we can just go behind like that and until we reach the time of Mahabharata. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. So the uh, these are the valuable destinations in this video: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so these are the 5, stopping points from where we get the dates here. So we have the Mauryan Empire, the Nanda dynasty, Shishunapa dynasty, the 5 Pradyutas, and then the Priyadrata lineage. These were the empires of ancient India. Okay, so first we talk about the Mauryan. Now, when, before going ahead, what I would like to pose this. When we think about the Mauryan Empire, what comes to our mind? Of course, two things come to our mind. First of all is Samrat Ashokavardhana, or basically simply King Ashoka, and then is Chandragupta Maurya. These two are one of the most well-known kings of ancient India and probably the most well-known kings of the Mauryan Empire. Okay. So here we have Chandragupta Maurya. Now, a little information about the Mauryan Empire. So, when was Mauryan Empire established? It was established in 322 BCE. Alright. Now, how was this established? I'm sure that most of us know the story, but for those who don't know, I would like to reiterate the establishment of the Mauryan Empire. Just a short account. It's a very interesting story. So, what happened was that before the Mauryan Empire, Dhananand was the ruler of the Nanda dynasty, which is one of the dynasties we're gonna indulge in. So Dhanananda was the ruler. So basically, he was a very cruel ruler. I mean, that's at least how the Buddhist and the Jain texts present him as. He was a very cruel ruler. So one day, Chanakya Kautilya, the great war tactician and the great administrator. Chanakya or / Kautilya, whatever you may want to call him, went to Dhanananda and was gravely insulted by him. Right? So Dhanananda insulted Chanakya. So that day Chanakya vowed revenge, for which he nurtured a young Chandragupta Maurya, who then defeated Dhanananda and took over his office at Magda, and he ended the Nanda dynasty, and then he became the ruler. Alright, so this is the story of the Mauryan Empire. So we get our first date from this, 322 BC. When was Mauryan Empire established? 322 BC. So this is when the Nanda Empire ended. Now let's talk about the Nanda Empire. Okay, so Nanda Empire. Now the story of Nanda Empire's establishment is even more interesting than that of the Mauryan Empire. So we now know that the last ruler was Dhanananda, but who was the first ruler? So this first ruler is a legend, to say the least. His name was Mahapadmananda. Alright, so the story goes as this. Mahapadmananda was the first Shudra king. He was the first Shudra king of ancient India. Now, for those who don't know, there were 4 Varnas in ancient India: Brahmin, then there was Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So Shudras were meant to do the menial tasks, like serving the upper castes and all. So they were not meant to be kings. But Mahapadmananda was the first Shudra king because he was born to he was Shudra as he was born to a Shudra woman. And the Purans literally describe him as the second Parshuram. Now you must be understanding with reference to Parshuram. I mean, literally, he's being referred to as the second Parshuram. Now you know what he has done. Of course, you guessed it right. He went on a killing spree of the prominent rulers of northern India. All right. So yeah, and then he established the Nanda Empire. So basically, before him there were many kings, and he killed them all, ended their office, became the king himself. This happened in 422 BC. So we get the second date. Keep in mind, we are 422 BC, exactly 100 years before the establishment of the Mauryan Empire by Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, now what were some of the kings that Mahapadmananda, who was the father of Dhanananda, killed? Let's look at them. So first, he ended the Shishunaba dynasty, which was the dynasty just before the Nanda Empire. We are going to talk about that later. Now, he also killed King Shemak and Sumitra. Now, who were Shemak and Sumitra? Again, very, very, very interesting. Shemaka was part of the Kuru clan. In fact, he was the last ruler of the Kuru clan. Now, who belonged to the Kuru clan? Any guesses? I'm not giving extra information. This is part of today's agenda. Yes, who was part of the Kuru clan? You guessed it right. It was the Pandavas and the Kauravas. So he was a descendant of the Pandavas, right? Shemaka was a descendant of the Pandavas. I mean, which makes him a descendant of Parikshit, and then, of course, the Pandavas as well. So the Kuru lineage, the Kuru clan's rule ended in 422 BC which was done by Mahapadmananda. Now, who was King Sumitra? Now, this is not on today's agenda, but it would be very great to know. You see, he was the last ruler of the Ishwaku clan or the Ishwaku lineage. Now, what is the Ishwaku lineage? Who is part of the Ishwaku lineage? Well, to everyone's surprise, Sri Ram's lineage. Yes, King Sumitra was the last king of Sri Ram's lineage, and Mahapadmananda killed him to become the king of northern India. As you can see, this is the extent in the picture. This is the extent of the Nanda Empire, right? So basically, King Shemaka was the last Kuru ruler, and King Sumitra was the last Ishwaku ruler. And of course, the Shishunaba dynasty was also brought to an end by Mahapadmananda. So let's move on to Shishunaba dynasty. So the Shishunaba dynasty was established in 784 BCE, which is exactly 362 years before Mahapadmananda became ruler, before the Nanda dynasty's establishment. So we get our third date, that is 784 BCE. Now, just 16 years before, that is in 800 BC, there was a flooding in Hastinapur. Now, what is its relevance here? The relevance here is that before, the capital of the Kuru clan was Hastinapur. Of course, you must have heard about this city if you read the Mahabharata, or even have heard about the Mahabharata. So, Hastinapur was the capital of the Kuru clan, right? But in 800 BC, there was a very huge flood in Hastinapur from the Ganga river, which left the city in ruins. Because of which, the ruler Richaknu was his name that time. The Richaknu ruler, who was part of the Kuru clan, so he was the ancestor of Shemaka and a descendant of Parikshit and the Pandavas. By the way, I am saying Parikshit for those who don't know who Parikshit is. Parikshit was the grandson of Yudhishthira, and he was the successor of Yudhishthira. Anyway, yes, so coming back, so in 800 BC there was a flooding in Hastinapur, and the king of that time, Richaknu, he then shifted the capital to Kaushambi. From Hastinapur, the capital of the Kuru clan then became Kaushambi. Alright, so we get our fourth date, 800 BCE. So now, before, by the workings of Indian archaeologist P.P. Lal, it was believed that the Mahabharata happened around 800 to 1000 BCE. But now, of course, it is proved wrong. I wouldn't say like, I mean, truthfully wrong, but 800 BC of course isn't as accurate now, because now we know that around this time of flooding happened in Hastinapur, and also because of another archaeological survey that was done even more recently, which I'm going to be telling you about shortly. Any which way, so we get a fort date 800 BC. So now we know Mahabharata didn't happen yet. We have to go more behind in time, right? As is the title, traveling back through time. All right, we go more behind. Why do we get the five Pradyotas? So before the Shishunaba dynasty, before King Shishunagha, who was the first king of the Shishunaba dynasty, there were the five Pradyotas. Now these five Pradyotas were the direct descendants of King Ripunjaya, who was the last king of the Brihadrata lineage. But I'm going to talk about the Brihadrata lineage a little further. So the five Pradyotas. The first Pradyota ruler became a king 922 BCE. Alright, so we go another 138 years back, because the five Pradyotas, these kings collectively ruled for 138 years. So we do 784 plus 138, we get 922 BCE, right? So yes, moving further, so we have the five Pradyotas, 922 BCE. Who was the first Pratyuta ruler? Now, before the first Pratyuta, there was of course King Ripunjaya, who was the last king of the Brihadrata lineage, and the Brihadrata lineage was said to have ruled for 1000 years. The king, that is, the kings of the Brihadrata lineage collectively ruled for 1000 years. So you go back another 1000 years from 922 BC, you get 1922 BCE. Now, this 1000 years does not include King Brihadrata actually. King Brihadrata was the first ruler of the Brihadrata lineage, as is the name, but he is not part of this 1000 years collective time period of ruling. So his successor, his son, becomes the first one, who is Jarasandha. Right, so Jarasandha and his descendants ruled for 1000 years, you can say like that. So in 1922 BC, Jarasandha became king, right? Now, for those who don't know who Jarasandha is, now Jarasandha was a pretty prominent figure in Krishna's story. How? Well, he attacked Mathura 17 times and was defeated by Lord Krishna all the 17 times. So basically, this means that Jarasandha was alive when Krishna was alive. And when, of course, this leads to the fact that when Krishna was alive, the Pandavas and the Kauravas was alive. And now we have entered the era of Mahabharata. So, you see, this is how we went behind, right? So we started off in 322 BCE with Chandragupta Maurya, and now we came to 1922 BCE with Jarasandha. This is how we traveled back in time, just traveling the course or following the reference of the lineages and when they were established. It's that easy to get the dates for a particular event. So we come to 1922 BC, when Jarasandha was alive, when Krishna was alive, when the Pandavas was alive, when the Kauravas was alive, which automatically means that this was the time period. This date is a part of the Mahabharata era, right? So of course we have the conclusion. When did Mahabharata happen? In 1922 BCE, according to this just simple method of tracking back through time. Okay, but of course this much evidence is not enough. I need more evidence to back up my evidence. So now we come to archaeological evidence. As I told you, I gave you historical evidence. Now I will give you archaeological evidence. So recently, Archaeological Survey of India did a excavation at a site near Sonali, near Delhi, which is Sonali is I think nearly 64 to 68 kilometers away from Delhi. So they found a lot of interesting things there. For example, they found a horse with a war chariot, a rusted bow and a sword. And when they dated these things back, these items dated to between 1500 to 2000 BC, and these items were very similar to the culture of the Mahabharata, to what items you'd expect to find during Mahabharata, right? So of course my date is between this time period of 1500 to 2000 BC. 1922 BC is part of this time period. So again, that backs up my other date of 1922 BCE, right? That is when the Mahabharata happened. Okay, so you can read this if you want. You can just pause the video and read it if you want. Now, finally, I'm going to be presenting the sources for my research. Of course, first comes the chat GPT. Of course, who doesn't use the chat GPT these days? And disclaimer, I have told that AI to reconfirm everything twice or thrice, so that any mistakes it has made are rectified at least in the second or the third time. So all my research, so most of my research is valid. Then the Vishnu Puran. So the Vishnu Puran is a text which I have taken a reference from, because it clearly gives all the lineages of the kings. It mentions the Mauryan Empire, the Nanda dynasty. It's a clear historical account. And if you want to know which one, it was the fourth part of the Vishnu Puran. Vishnu Puran chapters around 20 to 21, I think. Chapters 21, 22, 23, around those 20 to 24 chapters, the fourth part of the Vishnu Puran, right? It's a clear description. You don't even need to understand or infer anything. It's clear cut given. Everything is clearly given. And of course, the archaeological evidence part, I have taken reference from the article by Economic Times. Right, here is the link. If you want, you can go and check it out. Okay, so I think that's it for today's video, and just like the video if you have appreciated my research, and of course if you think that something went wrong somewhere, or if you have any of your inputs or insights, just write it down in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to check them out. Of course, I am learning as well. And subscribe the channel and hit the bell notification, so that next video of the Vedic discoveries is presented beforehand to you. And if you have any topics on which I should make a video on, just comment down below. Let's see what interesting topics you all want to know about. I am planning a few videos, and I'll be uploading them in the coming week. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching.